Hello again, and welcome to the 2.8 special edition of the Shade Chamber. I'm Inazuma's worth-selling author, Beefy.
I'm the trailer of Organization 13 getting dropped on a Sunday night break.
And I'm a fan of funeral peacekeepers and battlefield creepers, Junior.
I'm your local on-again, off-again cryptid, Rad.
And I'm your resident OnlyFans content creator, Wander. What's an OnlyFans, you might be asking? Well, for just $5 a month, you might see some...
We're not that kind of podcast.
Yet. Yet. This is our first episode recorded after we made the YouTube channel and decided to put all of our shit online. So now that we're all caught up and can talk to you in almost real time, first of all, we're not sorry. And second of all, thank you for putting up with all of our technical foibles and growing pains and stuff that is months off your radar. Genshin's been in a state. Obviously, there was the 2.6 super hiatus, which actually was fine. That kind of gave us our chance to shore up our episodes, get the videos edited, get everything posted. Honestly, the timing worked out pretty well with that. Also, Elden Ring happened.
Yeah.
And we're not sorry about that either. Also, in case you didn't know, we are, in fact, a podcast. We don't just call the videos that to confuse you. We are available on multiple podcasting platforms. On our Anchor FM link, it should have everything except for iHeartRadio for some reason. This was always meant to be a predominantly listenable format, and now you can listen to it.
Shout out to Australia.
Oh yeah, thanks Australia! Also, I've just had this in the back of my mind that I said I was going to say the next time we do a recording, and the statement still seems to be relevant. So, hey, we live in a hell world. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. Do the best you can. Anyway,
Comiket happened in Inazuma.
God, that was a fun event.
we called this, looking back at the Inazuma bulletin board, they talked about, oh, we're going to host a big cultural event for all fans of light novels, and it's going to be around New Year's. You know what happens around New Year's? Winter Comiket happens at New Year's. They're going to do Comiket in Genshin, and they did.
And it also was sort of the first real cross-cultural event amongst the characters. This was the first time we actually got to have a bunch of characters cross borders and go do fun events elsewhere.
And much like many of the more recent events, this particular one served as sort of a better means of providing sort of character context for many characters than even their own story quests. Which is unfortunate because this is, again, a limited time event.
Hey, Hoyoverse, can you stop burying, good character stuff in limited time events? Thanks.
It's insane. We literally went over this in the otaku market discussion. Your job is to sell characters. It's in your best interest to make them as marketable as possible, and you can't do that when you're retconning introspective character moments that only happen in events. I think Xingqiu was really served well by this event. You know, he's like a little nerd boy, wannabe swordsman. But then this event added in this dimension of his dad doesn't really support his passions. He had to sneak out and come to Inazuma on a pretense for business, and that's actually really sad.
And we see some of that anxiety from that carrying over into the way that he interacts with those passions. He writes these novels that weren't really hits in his home country of Liyue, but have taken off in Inazuma. So he's like an international best-selling author now, which is a huge deal and something to be really proud of and excited about. But then he shows up and he's just so nervous about being able to sign a book well that he literally spends multiple days practicing his signature to get it right because he just doesn't feel like he is good enough for it.
So the last time we talked, we covered the second Raiden Shogun quest, which sees abolishing the Sakoku decree. And for the first time in a long time, Inazuma has been opened up to foreign guests. And that's kind of the green light for a lot of characters moving between several regions. It's just a joy. These regions are really well thought out, and the characters, of course, are so strongly developed that it's all right, I cannot wait to see you go somewhere else. You know, have you been to Mondstadt before? Are you a bit of a fish out of water? Is there some culture shock? Do you meet anyone who becomes your friend against your expectations? Genshin is a game about traveling, and the playable characters are doing just as much sightseeing as we are.
Right. They established that there are characters who know each other across regions, which I think was a nice start to all of it. But finally seeing it pay off in this event of all of these diverse characters from these different countries coming together, hanging out, and genuinely leaving probably with if not a real friendship, at least a sense of camaraderie with each other, really made you root for the story that was happening in this event.
So yeah, but also the stuff that people got up to during Irodori was very interesting. In addition to just having the characters pop in and do the main quest, there were a lot of individual characters pairing off and going on fun other little adventures as well.
Yeah, this is the first event that's had Inazuma characters, so that's a whole bracket of characters that we can finally kind of see off the clock in a fun, character-oriented filler episode. We read Yai's nasty, nasty book.
That was maybe the most they've gotten away with, and also it was disgusting.
Yeah,
Let's be real here. This is pretty standard light novel fare to be, if I'm gonna be brutally honest, and they really nailed that. It's bad, but they really nailed it.
It's
very
almost
sincere.
Yes, that in the worst way. It's actually very unfair of Genshin to be look at everything that we're not, but we still like, and we're going to indulge in it, just fully aware that it's trash and conceding to you that it's trash, but we will still put you through it, and now you are in the trash too.
I am convinced of the infinite mercy of our Lord Raiden Shogun, because anything less than infinite would not allow us or this novel to continue existing.
Yeah. That Raiden Shogun, she's alright. She subjugated the hell out of us. There's a lot of blood on her hands, but at least she can kind of take it on the chin when her girlfriend writes a very unflattering caricature of her as basically Homer Simpson.
Yippee.
Yeah, yippee. God.
And then A looks at it and she's like, oh god, she's pissed at me. What did I do?
Yeah.
An eternity of mercy.
But I mean, I think that's what the festival did really well, because it balanced all of that nonsense with the actual main quest that ended up being fairly serious and fairly important to Inazuma as a whole. It ended up being really important for both Kazuha and Ayato, who I feel like this quest served as a better introduction to Ayato than his own story quest.
Right, I forgot about Ayato.
You do often forget about him.
Well, his own story quest, for context, was involved with him kind of mediating and intervening in the politicking surrounding the Hiragis, as well as get to the bottom of what was going on with the Kanjo Commission. And mind you, his story quest isn't terrible, but it's dealing with characters who, essentially, you're going to care about them a little bit less.
That's an objective fact, because they didn't even model the inside of her house. When you go and meet her, she goes out on the breezeway and sets up a table like she lives there. They must have been, fumigating.
In terms of the festival itself, though, it kind of repackages everything Ayato does as kind of like a sneaky spy master, and then takes that and puts it in a context of characters that you actually care about, given that it kind of explores the relationship between his family and, easy breezy, too samurai, too sleazy. I forgot his name. Fucking Kazuha, that's it.
For the whole year, you were like, I'm saving up for Kazuha. He's gonna come out. He's gonna get rolled again. How fickle, like the wind.
I can forget names just as easily as anyone else. Okay. The point is that Kazuha was really well served by this, because it went into detail on his family history, contextualizing why he became a wanderer a little bit, and I think it did so in a way that would even be a little bit better than even his own story quest a little later.
It's weird because, this was the second pass at an Ayato-centric story, which was basically the exact same as his proper character quest, but better. And then Kazuha's was the first pass at his, and it was better than his actual character quest, which came later.
A lot of that was set to Albedo also doing these fanfiction drawings of everybody in a way that was slotting them into sort of the historical roles of the poets that made up kind of the backdrop of the festival. And I think that was a lot of fun, but also it helps kind of make you pay more attention to sort of the overall theme of the story, because Genshin has a lot of lore and information that is kind of dropped on you at random times, and a lot of it is like spoken as word of mouth. And in this case, we had a bunch of cutscenes that sort of slotted characters we already knew into these roles to.
Yeah, they kind of Muppets Christmas Caroled it, where it's like, we're familiar with these guys, and now they are cosplaying these other legendary figures.
Yeah. I personally probably wouldn't have cared at all about the 5 coffin, so restructuring it so that they exist relative to people that you're meant to draw parallels between them with.
And then you don't have to character design them. Win-win.
Yeah, and you get your cute little redesigns of everyone in little 5 coffin outfits.
Also, apparently A built Shogi with a Turnitin plagiarism detector. Don't try to sneak anything derivative by her. She will just kick you out. Swords, poems, musical riffs, recipes. She knows. She knows that you jacked that steez. It just so happened that she had Under Pressure on her Walkman, and it sounded an awful lot like Ice Ice Baby, and she's like, no, we don't accept this. Digital Raiden's management.
Her Walkman? You mean the Raiden itself?
Yes.
No one mentioned that during the scene where Senora died, all of that music was diegetic.
Oh yeah? Just blaring out of her?
Her pauldron's a speaker.
Oh my god.
Oh, it makes perfect sense now.
Because we talked about the story, but there were other events that were associated with it.
Oh, right. There's a whole slew of mechanics, yeah.
I mean...
Oh, wait, yeah.
The flower arranging was meh, take it or leave it. Like, great, we got some decos out of it. I don't...
The flower arrangements really felt like a failure of game design, because they really were like, okay, look at this flower, look at this other flower, quick, arrange all of these together. But they also gave you the cheats on it, just to be like, okay.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, just like, okay, we market tested it, this had to go out, nothing we can do about it. We were going to decrease your score if you saw the hints, but no one was actually able to beat this in the testing room, so screw it. Just do the thing, just indulge us, you know?
Yeah.
It was clearly a band-aid, and, we empathize. There were, 6 gameplay mechanics on show at that event. Granted, I think all of them, except for the parrying contest, were retreads, but, you still gotta whip out a fresh UI. You still have to, make it demonstrably different than the last time you trotted out this minigame. So, there was... And on top of that, you have to do, a whole cinematic thing on top of all the other stuff you're delivering on that patch. So, we understand.
Yeah, I was going to say 6 mechanics, 1 for every week of turnover.
Exactly.
I mean, with that said, though, that parry thing was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
It was really fun. We also like how it was transparently a metrics test to see what parry windows their player base could actually deal with.
Yeah. But it was still by far the best event they've put out in a long time. That was a lot of fun.
And we did them all on hard and aced them so that we could move up the bell curve. What we want to say is basically, screw you, mobile players. You took away our teapot load limit. We will take away your parry windows.
Other things to talk about with Irodori, though.
The one thing I didn't like in terms of the other sub-games, though, were the changes to Theater Mechanicus, which we definitely never called anything else.
There's definitely not a word floating around that we purely Mandela'd ourselves into believing was a real thing that people called it and have frequently referred to it as such. The fact that they made it single player sucked. I hated that. This is the first Theater Mechanicus that we played where I was just like, this is awful, I don't want to do this again.
It kind of feels like a chore single player. With a friend, at least it's okay, you can sort of split the burden of panicking when the big stuff starts coming through and and overrunning your defenses and then your gate. But alone, it's okay, well, if I wanted to do this, I would just go play Arknights.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't think it helps.
That's the thing. They don't want you to go play Arknights.
Well, that's too bad because I am the local cryptid and I can and will disappear at the drop of a hat.
Okay, you hear that, Genshin? Do better. You're gonna lose this guy to Arknights.
But I mean, the other thing too is that in terms of this version of Theater Mechanicus, it was also, in addition to being single player, a lot more constrained. than previous iterations of it, which makes me think they got tired of people breaking Theater Mechanicus in two, since a lot of the exploits that previously existed were less available to players.
I mean, it's
Well,
a
you
PvE
know
game.
what? Maybe they should make their stuff more fun and interesting than frustrating and time wasting, and then people will be focused more on playing and enjoying the challenge than trying to bust it open so that they don't have to waste their time. Genshin.
Yeah.
More co-op minigames, please. Give us some Mario Party bullshit. I would love that.
Oh no.
Oh, that
Maybe
would
not-
actually
Oh
be
my
really
god,
fun.
that would be amazing.
Just like
Maybe
simple, like directional and one button games. Oh my god, that'd be so fun. Like, oh no, guys, you gotta stay on the Kaya Bridge.
Stay on the Kaya Bridge.
Hopefully with a little less of the absolute bloodthirsty hostility that comes out when you start arbitrarily losing. Speaking of losers, it's an Inazuma related story beat, and that means it's time to bring back our recurring segment, There Is No W in Tengu. Last time Sara got off the hook, she had an alibi for not appearing during A's character quest. A little sus, but okay. This time, however, 3. Since we last visited her, Sara has incurred 3 more choice L's, 2 of which happened in Irodori Festival.
This bird mall cop really can't catch a break, huh?
Though, she can barely catch a Funko Pop.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, her little Patsy operation didn't turn out super well for her. And then once it did, it still constituted an L because she got embarrassed by the very god she got the Funko Pop of.
Like, let's walk through it. She enlists a proxy, like what you would do from the old days, and you're bidding on Yahoo.jp. You get yourself a little proxy. Unfortunately, Sara's, a few feathers short of a working wing, so she went ahead with Yai's personal suggestion, the narcoleptic shoddy.
Narcoleptic shoddy?
That took me a second.
Listen, it's been a day. So, lost her place in line, ended up being like a fencer. She can't even take credit for nabbing the guy because the traveler is the one that sets up the haggling distraction that allows us to catch the scalper anyway. Finally does manage to wrangle one, only to be brutally secondhand embarrassed by the big RS herself walking in on the scene and being like, "Ha! You're into this shit? Alright. I didn't know that about you." And she goes, "It was theirs," and scoots away.
Well, no, and then after she scoots away, Raiden's like, "Oh, the Traveler is into these things? I have a ton of back-ordered ones that they just gave me every year. If you want the collection, I'll give it to you."
She's just like, "Look, Yai sends me these things every time she's pissed at me, and I have way too many. I'll give you a spare. We could just say it's a prezi from you, okay? Happy Irodori, nobody." And then she goes home.
Happy Irodori, everyone.
Everyone. It was great. So that's L
Yeah.
number 1
Oh,
for
Christ.
Sara. L number 2 is one that was in Alice's long-awaited Tevat Travel Guide Chapter 3, which we get at the end of Klee and Yoimiya's little subquest. This is the one where we had to take a pause and go, this is absolutely egregiously cruel, because Alice mentions that she was in the Shogun's kitchens trying to make a medicine that would allow for flight. The implication being she noticed that Sara cannot fly due to her childhood injury and attempted to make a potion to rectify that and ended up exploding one of her wings off.
It didn't get blown off, it just got further broken.
I mean, that one's just tragic.
Maybe
Yeah.
people should be supervising this person.
I feel like maybe the notion of like putting more surveillance on Alice is what got her dimension hopping again.
We're gonna meet Alice and she's gonna have like 5 ankle bracelets.
They're just from like different authorities, just like, we need to know where this menace is at all times.
She's like, "What, these? My collection? I got this one in Horizon Zero Dawn."
Yeah, and if that theory about visions being an ankle bracelet to begin with turn out to be true, then I don't know, maybe Alice is another character who doesn't have one.
She doesn't have one, she has 6. And finally, the last one, not nearly as egregious as we find out that, contrary to everyone's expectation, Kujou Sara does have one confirmed friend, Kuki Shinobu. This friend has also ruined her life in ways that are unimaginable. Briggs, since you're the one that brought this L to our attention, why don't you go ahead and take the floor on it?
So the third L all started when Sara was late to an appointment with her Funko Pop polisher, Kuki Shinobu. Sara had been out dealing with the Arataki gang, who were out,
They wrote pen 15 in Sharpie on the statue of the omnipresent god.
Sara comes in and starts complaining about this to Shinobu over drinks. Shinobu looks at her friend, hears this story about these stupid man-children running around, and opts to join them, and basically becomes their fixer. Like, is the one who starts running their operations and making it so that they can, function as a unit, which is really just going to prolong their existence, whereas they might have disbanded out of boredom prior to her involvement.
Dansleaf says something, it's like cementing them as a thorn in her side for years to come, or something along those lines. They are now more powerful than they've ever been, and it's all because she accidentally gave her friend a project that ruined her life.
Nominally, Shinobu likes Sara, and she still did this to her.
The universe finds a way. Alice liked Sara, and she blew up her wing. Also, another important Alice fact is she was Yai's Joker moment. We thought Yai's a bitch because, she's a wily fox. Maybe she learned it from Kitsune Saigu, a fellow wily fox. No, she was a very good girl who was just bullied by Alice as a pup, and from then on descended on a path of scorched fucking earth, I guess. Anyway, don't bully. That's the moral of Irodori. Unless you're Sara, then the world will bully you for you.